This is White Plains Week, the weekly news roundup. With your moderator, John Bailey, editor and publisher of the daily internet newspaper White Plains Citizen Net Reporter. Jim Benaroff, editor and publisher of SuburbanStreet.com and WhitePlains.com. And Peter Katz, noted broadcaster and journalist. White Plains Week, what's happened, who are the newsmakers, and what's in store for the future. The views and opinions expressed on this program are solely those of the participants. White Plains Week is presented Fridays at 7:30 and again on Mondays at 7 p.m. here on Channel 76. Now, White Plains Week.
Good evening, Mr. and Mrs. and Ms. White Plains and Westchester, and all you due dalliance experts out there. We know who you are now. John Bailey with Peter Katz, the noted broadcaster.
Is due dalliance like due diligence?
Yes, done badly. Yes, and at any rate, this is Peter Katz. You know him. He's been with us for 2007, and you're celebrating a great day.
Ah, because
Yes,
the sun has come out.
right.
That's the
Exactly.
only reason that's a great day to celebrate.
That's right.
So go on.
And you have the headlines.
Indeed I do. And John, here are the headlines for White Plains Week, being recorded on February 26th, 2016. White Plains and other areas are still recovering after 1.75 inches of rain and winds about 50 miles an hour at the highest peak Wednesday night into Thursday morning as the winter of weird weather events continues. Ann Fitzsimmons, the first woman police officer in White Plains, has been promoted to police chief. 70 people turn out to celebrate George Washington's birthday at Jacob Purdy House here in White Plains at the White Plains Historical Society's annual recognition of our first president. The proposed deal, they said, would make Playland profitable for Westchester County and eliminate debt, has been changed. And the new deal apparently will run up $58 million or more in debt that the county will have to pay off. White Plains sales tax dollars were down 6% in January, while county sales tax receipts rose 6%, according to New York State. The town of Greenburgh elects not to tax commercial property owners and condominium owners at separate rates from homeowners as a result of property revaluation. Notices will be going out to Greenburgh residents this month. New York State reports that White Plains High School graduated 86% of its 2015 senior class, totaling 447 students. Now, 36% of those students earned Regents diplomas. Less than half of the 447 graduates passed the English Regents with 75 or better, and fewer passed the Math Regents with a grade of over 80. White Plains Hospital opens a $50 million cancer care center. The county executive dismisses a Westchester County Airport Traffic Committee member who was skeptical about whether the plan being bandied about to increase airline traffic at the airport will be too much for the airport. TransCare goes out of business, leaving White Plains with one ambulance service, Empress. Now, it's said that they have enough technicians and vehicles to pick up the slack left by TransCare's departure, according to the police commissioner. Retired White Plains police officer Bill Bertram is named Grand Marshal of the St. Patrick's Day Parade in White Plains, coming up on March 12th. Also on March 12th, the Friendly Gathering from 6 to 9 at the Women's Club of White Plains. White Plains Media introduces a redesigned website, and the address, if you'd like to take a look, is www.wpmedia.org. And now back to John, who has his own website, wpcnr.com.
Right, which hardly ever changes. Now, let's go to the White Plains Week Rollo Newsreel March of Time, and you're looking at a real Dracula night that took place late Thursday night outside the White Plains Citizenette Reporter World Headquarters. And you can see the streaks
you and
of
I
rain.
were lucky in our
We were.
areas. Some
Right.
parts of town took pretty big hits.
Yes, 1 3/4 inches fell.
Rain.
Wednesday through Thursday, and this is what it did to Ridgeway. If we can have the next one, there we are. A huge tree clunked over and knocked out power to some 1,500, not in that area, but 1,500 across the city, and trees and wires got blown down. And
that was just part
busy.
of it. Throughout Westchester,
Yeah.
there were trees down, power lines down, streets flooded. It was quite a storm that went through here.
Yeah. Now this street, Ridgeway, is now open as of Friday morning, but the work crews are still working because I think Con Ed hooked them up.
And you know, when all
then
is said and done, John, we were quite lucky here in our area that it was only 1 3/4 inches of rain, and the winds were only around 50 miles an hour, because this was the tail end of a storm which had devastated portions of the southeast with tornadoes, people killed, houses destroyed, quite a mess. From one winter storm after another, one temperature change after another, one bit of precipitation which starts as snow and ends as drenching rain. This has been quite some winter.
Yes, anxiety weather forecasting too.
Yeah,
Yes.
and the strange thing is that it is
Weather anxiety. Yes.
global warming at work.
Or maybe it's all the hot air coming from the Republican debates. You never can tell. It coincides.
They had another
blowing
one.
a big
They had
winds.
another one of
Yes.
those last night, and it was quite vitriolic. Trump and Rubio and Cruz were really battling it out verbally.
One of these days, it's going to break out into a live fist fight.
Yeah.
It's only a matter of time.
Trump really took off against the former president of Mexico for using the F word in describing Trump's wall that he wants to build
He
across
could have
the
used
border.
caramba, and he wouldn't have gotten in any trouble. Remember, that was one of the trademarks of the Cisco Kid, one of the great serials of all
Having
time.
Pancho saying caramba,
Yes,
Cisco.
Absolutely, and they were. It was a truly unique and dignified portrayal, and I think that was the first. And of course, the Zorro movies, but I digress.
Yes,
Yes,
you do.
right. But unfortunately, the county has made a big digression, and that is the shocker of the week. The White Plains Week shocker of the week is the 60 million, it could be 60 million, and that is that they have changed the Playland deal at Standard Amusements, the vendor's request.
The current operator of other theme parks,
Right.
Standard Amusements, is lined up to take over Playland.
Yeah, we thought it was a done deal, but apparently it was not.
Well, they were given some extra time to determine whether they really wanted to go ahead with it. And so now we have found out that apparently the deal has been changed somewhat. The county will assume responsibility for what's currently estimated at about $58 million worth of repairs and construction over at Playland.
Right. Here's the look at what it's going to be spent on. A switchgear building, $5.1 million. Shoreline improvements, $1 million. Tower rehab, $9.9 million. Colonnades, $9.2. This is big numbers. Rides, $3.9 million. Administration buildings, $6.2. Parking drainage, almost $10 million. Site improvement, $4 million. Arcades, $480,000. Food structures,
buildings,
3.6. Restrooms, gotta have those electric eye restrooms, right? 2.4 million, whoa. And employee area, 1.4 million. Have to have lounges, right? And gaming, the gaming arcades, 1.7 million. This is astounding. Now, they couldn't figure this out last year.
So the question would be, how long does it take for the county to recapture this $58 million? Presumably, they would do a bond issue over 20 or 30 years.
At about 2%.
Interest rate.
Yeah.
Fortunately, interest rates are down, so that's possibly doable.
And we haven't quite figured out what the interest is on that.
And then it also turns out that under this new proposed arrangement, Standard Amusements would be able to operate the park for approximately twice as long as
that
originally
is a major
was
change.
planned.
You are getting married, man.
Without having to come up with a huge payment to the county. So
let's
just,
look at
just
the
how
highlights.
the math works out, we're not quite sure, but
let's look at it. They have to 58 to 60 million to be approved in 60 days, beginning March 1st. They have original $500,000.
that was a down payment.
Yet.
That was a
Not
down
paid
payment,
yet.
sort of.
Contract runs for 30 years. 90% of bond money must be spent by 2018. Now
So
that's an amazing.
Well, the
thing.
improvements would have to be done within the next 2 years, which is a lot to do.
It sure is, let alone contracted out. $300,000 payment rises 2%, or the CPI after standard investments recouped.
That's what Standard Amusements routinely pays the county.
Yes, and the county shares 8% in the first 10 years
That's
of the profits.
Of the profit.
10% the second decade, 12% the third decade, and it will be co-managed in 2016.
So Standard Amusements comes in, they help run it, but they don't take it over quite yet.
Yeah, the contract is on the Board of Legislators website, and if these intrigue you, you should read the contract, but so should the legislators.
Okay, also on the county side this week, we found out that a critic of what may be interpreted as some airport expansion has been unceremoniously dismissed from the Westchester County Advisory Board. His name is Sal Crescenzi, and he had, as all members, served at the pleasure of the county executive, and so the county executive, it turned out, wasn't too pleased to hear him questioning what they are doing over there now. They have plans to add a couple of jetways, a couple of new gates, which would be capable of handling larger jet airliners. And there is actually some construction well underway now on expanding the terminal area. They're adding some extra square footage to that. And the county, at the moment, is starting on a bit of a public relations campaign to convince people that all of these changes are not going to turn Westchester County Airport into another LaGuardia Airport.
Right. Now, Ned McCormick, the spokesperson for Mr. Astorino, said to the Journal News that this is simply about the possibility of adding flights per hour, but not increasing the number of flights. But that can mean a great deal of things.
Well, the airport, once these reconfigurations take place, the terminal building will be capable of handling more passengers per hour than it does now.
Yes, and also there's going to be a meeting for the public that Peter Shearer, the manager of the airport, is going to
actually, I believe that's taking place as we are recording this show, so we can't
well, it will. I don't know
it.
if it's today or not, but at any rate, they are having that, and I thought it was about a week or so from now, but
I
be
don't
that
know.
as it may.
Actually,
Check
you're correct.
yes.
I'm incorrect. It's March 18th.
March 18th.
Yeah.
I thought so.
When we'll be recording the show of March 18th, they'll be doing this meeting, so we
They
can't
scheduled
attend
it that way, so we couldn't attend.
course.
And it's amazing how often that happens, that key meetings are scheduled right opposite when we tape this show. It's common knowledge. Common knowledge, my friends. Now, let's see, shall we take a look at some of the more local things that happen in White Plains?
Well, there was an event over at Purdy House.
That's right.
This week, when we had the opportunity to celebrate George Washington's birthday.
Right, and here's some of the action that took place.
Well, they had a good crowd. About 50, 60 people, maybe a little more. And we had a drum corps of all ages there.
Right, looking very revolutionary.
Now this happened this past Sunday afternoon, and they even had free refreshments there, so a larger crowd would have been more than welcome.
That's right, but the cake was going fast, and they had a great speaker
talking about some of the history.
Contributions to George Washington's presidency.
And Alexander Hamilton is certainly a hot number these days. That's Mayor Roach's son,
yes,
helping to raise the flag. Yeah, Alexander Hamilton certainly has captured the heart of Broadway with that particular show.
Right, and
you know, there was something that happened up there which we don't see very often, and that's the Pledge of Allegiance.
The United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And then everyone went inside the Purdy House.
Packed place, and Rand Cholette, the founder of the Alexander Hamilton Honor Society, said he would do 2 talks instead of 1 so everybody could get a chance to hear it. And that was real professional of him and very nice. And my wife thoroughly enjoyed the talk and learned a lot about Alexander Hamilton. A great tradition that the Historical Society puts on every year. And also they announced that there would be a recreation of the Declaration of Independence reading, I believe at the Armory in June with full revolutionary regalia. So
right, and the White Plains is noted historically as being the first place in New York State that
it was read.
It was read, yeah.
Yes, a very historic spot, which is recognized by a marker, but sort of threatened by traffic, as I explained. Now,
Transcare Ambulance is no more. They were apparently having financial difficulties and went out of business this past week. Right. It affects a lot of cities and towns here in Westchester County, White Plains among them. We are told by Police Commissioner Chong that Empress Ambulance, which is taking over for them, has plenty of vehicles, has plenty of personnel. In fact, the Transcare personnel have been offered jobs with Empress, from what I understand. And so there should be no interruption or effect on service offered to people who need ambulance service here in White Plains.
Everything is taken care of in Westchester County.
Also, in medical news this week, there was a grand opening. White Plains Hospital opened its new Center for Cancer Care. Right. And there's the mayor with some of the staff people.
Yes.
And I see that's David Buchwald on the far left.
Andrea Stewart Cousins, the state senator, and that's Susan Cox cutting the blue ribbon. And
Amy Paulin is in there.
And the significant thing about the Dick Steen Center is they have increased the number of chemo bays to very luxurious facilities. They're increasing it by 26 bays. Then you can, and we hope to have a picture of them.
And well, they have other facilities too in there. This is that new building which was put up on just at the edge of West Post Road and Longview.
And Longview by the new
right
garage.
Across from the garage. Right. So there's plenty of garage parking for patients who need to use the facility.
But the increase in the number of bays is truly significant. They can treat more persons in a much more basically luxurious and comfortable manner.
Yeah, a lot of the treatment there was going on in the basement. So so this allows much more room. It's a roomier place, a brighter place, an airier place, more comfortable place.
It makes a
and
very
certainly
difficult
more
process
modern.
a lot more easy to handle. And now, speaking of the police, Ann Fitzsimmons, right there, was appointed police chief. She's been with the city, I believe, 36 years, was the first police woman hired by the department in 1980. And so now she is come full cycle. She is the first woman police chief for White Plains. Congratulations, Chief Fitzsimmons. Sounds good, doesn't it? Right, right. And now, something that is interesting is we got some figures from the state, as we do every month, and that was the sales tax for White Plains in January. We had hoped that it would show some improvement, but it did not. It was down 6%. 4.8 million was poured into the White Plains coffers last January. This January, 4.5 million.
You know, the thing is, if all of these numbers are buzzing around in your head and don't make much sense, the thing to keep in mind, which really puts this all in perspective, is that while the White Plains sales tax numbers were coming down in January, countywide the sales tax receipts went up 6%.
Well, no, it was 2%. That was my typo.
Oh, 2%. Okay. So there's a correction.
I'm responsible for all typos.
Send your cards and letters to Bailey, not to me.
That's right. But it's 2%. The county is up. So White Plains is down 6.
Nonetheless, you've got a spread there of an 8% change. If 6% down, 2% up, that's an 8% spread. So the question is, why is White Plains once again going down when the county is once again going up? What's happening here?
And we've been asking this for some time, but nobody seems to want to think about the answer.
The Downtown Business Improvement District was supposedly doing a big survey, you remember, a big study to find out why people are not shopping in White Plains the way they used to, and to find out what, something else about the retail situation here. I haven't heard anything about the results of that. It's been about a year.
Sources say, they said parking. Sources say, okay? And, but this is something that we need to pay attention to.
Well, I tell you, they don't have any parking problem over at the high school, and there are some numbers there which will knock your socks off.
Yes, we...
if you'll pardon the reference to your socks.
The New York State Education Department issued a press release about 3 weeks ago saying what the graduation rate was across the state, graduation rate. Not the pronunciation rate, the graduation rate. So 7% of students in the class of 2015 across the city, about 14,600 students dropped out of high school, and 78% stayed in.
That's statewide you're talking about.
Statewide. And 60% of the dropouts were black or Hispanic, and 64% came from economically disadvantaged children.
Well, all well and good. All well and good or all well and bad, as the case may be. But what's happening here in White Plains?
In
what
2015,
are the numbers in White
the
Plains?
numbers are graduation rate, 447 seniors graduated in 2015. 86% of the total class.
Okay, so that means that 14% of the students in White Plains High School did not graduate last year.
That's right, and about, let's see, 51 are still enrolled. 10% of them are still enrolled.
Okay, so how many got Regents diplomas?
188, 36%.
So out of 447 students, only 188 got Regents diplomas. Which is about what, 35, 36?
36%.
36%.
Very good, Mr.
36.
Math.
See, that's why I got my math diploma. See.
I see. Yeah. Right. You passed the Regents, didn't you?
I
yes,
certainly did. Yes.
Right.
But
now,
okay, so only 36% earned Regents diplomas. That means that we've got a real problem here, where 2/3 of your students cannot earn a Regents diploma. My recollection is that it didn't take Einstein to earn a Regents diploma.
Right. Well, more significantly, though, there is a measurement called the ELA Math Aspirational Performance Measure.
Wow, that's a mouthful.
Have you got that? better
And what-
known, as everybody knows, as the APM.
Okay, so what
Now,
what does that mean?
The APM measures how many who graduated with a local regents or regents with advanced designation diploma, designation diploma, scored 75 or higher on the English Regents exam and scored 80 or higher on the Regents math exam. Let me run that by again.
It's
This
not
measures
going to help clearing it up, John.
No, it's
really.
not. But only 42% did that of these graduates, passed the English Regents with a grade of 75 or better,
Okay.
and 42%
Passed the math
Yeah,
with a
too.
grade of
Right.
80 or better.
I mean, that is not great, and it's very eye-opening. These are graduates supposedly ready for college-level work,
Yeah.
or at least if they go to a college would be able to do it. So that is really something to be thought about.
Well, they've got
Deeply.
something to think about over in Greenberg, where the results of the property tax revaluation have now been put out to the public, and the town board over there decided that they would not give what's called a homestead exemption,
Yes.
which allows a break for owners of
Yes,
single-family homes.
And has a higher tax rate for commercial and condominium property owners.
Right.
They're not going to do that.
They're not shifting the burden.
They're not shifting the burden.
Off the backs of the homeowners
No.
onto the commercial property owners.
And this was,
And they're saying that the actual results people will be able to find out as they mail out a notice in the next month or so as to whether your taxes are going to go up, go down, or remain the same.
and by the way, I will still be seeing you on WVOX radio, because even though Bob Marone is now coming back to host WVOX,
He had
he's
gone over
bringing me
to
along.
WFAS
Right,
radio,
yeah,
and
right.
WFAS recently changed their format to become an all-sports station, mostly taking a feed from the CBS radio network rather than doing a lot of local origination. But he had been doing the morning show, so he was given his walking papers, and he walked back across town to WVOX in New Rochelle, where he starts the morning show. And
On
John,
Monday.
you will still be part of
Yeah,
that.
I will be doing a bit with Bob at 7:50 a.m.
Well,
Tuesdays.
that's a much better time, because even I had trouble catching you at 7:35 in the morning. So the extra 15 minutes or so will be very helpful. in trying to
Vladimir
catch you a
Putin
bit.
listens.
Yeah.
Vlad listens. He tells me, great show, but we could never let you do that here. Now,
He said that, huh?
that's right. And also, I'd like to mention that Hugh Price was honored as well. We were doing this program and inducted into the Biondi School African American Hall of Fame. He was the former president of the Urban League. He was a New York Times columnist and vice president of WNET Channel 13, and he was founder of the Campaign for African American Achievement.
Well, congratulations
The
to
end of
Hugh Price.
February, which is African American Recognition Month, and congratulations to him, John Bailey, Peter Katz. Good night for White Plains Week.
White Plains Week has been a presentation of White Plains Citizen Net Reporter, WPCNR.com, in cooperation with Channel 76. Comments may be emailed to WPCNR@AOL.com. The copyrighted print White Plains Cityscape by Leonard Weber is used courtesy of the White Plains Presbyterian Church. For information on its availability, you may contact the church at 761-8585. The views and opinions expressed on the preceding program were solely those of the participants. White Plains Week is presented Fridays at 7:30 and again on Mondays at 7 p.m. here on Channel 76. For White Plains Week, this is Seth Benarov speaking.